Okay guys, so to further understand my following research in future videos, I'm going to start with the present regarding our knowledge of COVID-19 cases so far in the United States. On January 19, 2020, a 35-year-old man presented to urgent care clinic in Snohomish County, Washington with a 4-day history of cough and subjective fever. On checking into the clinic, the patient put a mask on in the waiting room. After waiting approximately 20 minutes, he was taken into the examination room and underwent evaluation by a provider. He disclosed that he had returned to Washington State on January 15th after traveling to visit family in Wuhan, China. The patient stated that he had seen a health alert from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, about the novel coronavirus outbreak in China, and because of his symptoms and recent travel, decided to see a healthcare provider. The first U.S. cases of non-travel related COVID-19 were confirmed on February 26 and 28, 2020, suggesting the community transmission was occurring by late February. So as you can see, per the CDC, why a majority of these case counts, reports, and statistics started in March. This is when the widespread data first started appearing, as you will see in my following graphs. In this graph, you can see from the start of March through November, we have reached a peak of almost 2 million COVID tests being administered daily in the United States. In this picture from the CDC, you can see the total case count versus total deaths reported since January 21st, 2020. Studies show at least 40 to 50% of people who test positive for COVID-19 have no symptoms. Medical experts say asymptomatic spread clearly is contributing to fall spikes of COVID-19. A recent study found that nearly 40% of children who tested positive for COVID-19 were asymptomatic. It's kind of funny, isn't it? That we're even testing asymptomatic people with no symptoms. I mean, we don't do that with the flu. And why would this only contribute to fall spikes and not spikes in general when mask regulations have gotten stricter and lockdowns more prevalent? Mask wearing didn't stop the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918, but that's for another video. Here you can see the total confirmed cases from March through November versus the death totals from ourworldandData.org, not too different from the CDC. From the same source, we have a more detailed count of total cases, total deaths, and total recovered. Keep in mind, almost all data shows that the total recoveries are half of the case counts, half of which are already asymptomatic to begin with. If half have no symptoms and half make full recoveries, shouldn't we just be cutting these case counts in half? I mean, it makes sense to me. I don't know about you. Here we have another count from worldandmeters.info showing roughly the same estimates. This website's really neat as it's interactive and it carries a live count with many statistical options. There have been many reports of wrongfully labeled deaths that did not result from COVID, but from heart attacks, cancer, and even a motorcycle accident. A man who died in a motorcycle accident was counted among the COVID-19 related deaths in the state, leading to questions about whether the state's reported coronavirus death rates are accurate, according to Fox 35 Orlando. They inquired with the Orange County Health Officer Raul Pino, MD, about 2 deaths that were reported among individuals in their 20s last week. The Florida Department of Health said COVID-19 can be listed as the immediate or underlying cause of death, but instances such as trauma, homicide, and motor vehicle accidents are supposed to be excluded from the COVID-19 death rates. Are they? Can we even rely on these death rates? Hospitals have been highly compensated for labeling COVID deaths, unrightfully so, and lawsuits have followed as well as redacted counts. Here you'll see PA removes more than 200 deaths from official coronavirus counts as questions mount about reporting processes and data accuracy. In the next article, you'll see testaments from 2 physicians stating how they were pressured into labeling COVID deaths inaccurately. Sadly, this is just one example of many. So here's the article. It talks about these 2 doctors that are pressured into labeling COVID deaths and kind of what happened. Doctors Dan Erickson and Dr. Art Masahi of Accelerated Urgent Care. The California-based hospital, it seems, just going to kind of skim over this. They've spoken to numerous physicians who say they are pressured to add COVID-19 to death certificates even when the virus appears to have no relation to the victim's cause of death. They say, it's interesting. I'm writing on my death report. Why is this? Why are we being pressured to add COVID? Maybe to increase numbers, maybe to make it look worse than it is. It goes on to say they've had YouTube videos banning. No surprise there. I mean, there's lots of censorship on these media outlets and platforms. Goes down to say if you died of a clear alternative cause, but you had COVID at the same time, it is still listed as a COVID death. Well, that is crazy to me because dying from COVID and dying with COVID are two different things. When a reporter asked Erickson, who was applying the alleged pressure on the physicians, he said it was the hospital administration. We're being pressured to add COVID when we think it has nothing to do with the actual cause of death. So are hospitals conspiring to make COVID pandemic look worse than it is? Probably not. There's a simpler explanation: incentives. But who gives the incentives? The people that want the pandemic to look worse, I'm sure. The CDC estimates that the burden of illness during the 2018 to 2019 season included an estimated 35.5 million people getting sick with influenza, 16.5 million people going to a healthcare provider for their illness, 490,600 hospitalizations, and 34,200 deaths from influenza. These are symptomatic people, y'all. CDC estimates that influenza was associated with 45 million illnesses, 21 million medical visits, 810,000 hospitalizations, and 61,000 deaths during the 2017 to 18 season. This burden was higher than any season since the 2009 pandemic and serves as a reminder of how severe influenza can be, despite the fact that 40 to 60% of us are vaccinated. Here from Johns Hopkins, the coronavirus disease versus 2019 flu. I'm going to just go over some key points here. Symptoms appear to be the same. Both illnesses cause fever, cough, body aches, sometimes vomiting, diarrhea. Both can result in pneumonia. Both can be mild or severe or fatal. They both spread in similar ways: droplets, particles in the air. People can touch surfaces and then transfer germs. People can go out not knowing they have it and spread it unknowingly. Treatment. Neither the flu nor COVID are treatable with antibiotics because they are not bacterial infections. Doesn't take a rocket scientist. Prevention. They both can be prevented by mask wearing, frequent and thorough hand washing, coughing into the crook of your elbow, staying home when sick, social distancing. Mask wearing did a lot again for that, 1918 Spanish flu epidemic. I'm digressing. That'll be another video. The differences between COVID-19 and the flu, the causes are obvious. One is they're two different viruses. Symptoms. Many people infected with COVID don't know they have it. It seems unlike the flu. COVID can cause a person to lose their taste or sense of smell. The flu usually doesn't have that. Treatment, COVID-19, antiviral medications are being tested. No, scratch that. We fast-tracked it to vaccine. Everybody knows that. All right, the flu. Oral antiviral medications can address symptoms and sometimes shorten the flu. Vaccine, COVID-19. There is no vaccine. Scratch that. Yes, there is. It's coming. Flu. A vaccine is available and effective in preventing some of the most dangerous types. It's very important to get vaccinated for the flu this year. Complications include long-term damage to the lungs, heart, kidneys, brain, and other organs with COVID, with flu, inflammation of the heart, brain, muscles, multi-organ failure, secondary bacterial infections. Same stuff here. All right, approximately 65,359,887 cases worldwide of COVID and the flu every year. 1 billion people worldwide get the flu. All right, let's recap what we just read. approximately 65,359,887 cases of COVID confirmed worldwide. Half those cases are asymptomatic or in recovery, so let's just cut them in half. Seems plausible. Moving on, approximately 1 billion people get the flu every year, even though statistics show 40 to 60% of the population get their vaccinations. Those 1 billion cases are symptomatic cases, y'all. But you don't go to the doctor and get tested for the flu with no symptoms. A lot of people don't even go to the doctor when they know they have the flu. They know their coworkers and kids had it and they know the deal and stay home. They don't get tested, it doesn't get reported. Through research, I've found the flu is significantly underreported and COVID is massively overtested and overreported. So I'm just going to leave this right here. You read that right. 97 to 99.75% recovery rate from this deadly pandemic. Awake yet?